And then all of that is built on a machine learning algorithm that really allows us to better serve you with the right hotels. So if you're looking at very classical hotels and we know that you want to come to New York, we're not going to serve you the W, which is super modern, because we've learned from your behavior and we know like this is the kind of hotel that Smeraldo likes. So it's at its simplest form, it's a curated OTA with beautiful imagery. And if we get deeper, it's got social tools, and deeper than that, we have a machine learning algorithm. And ultimately the goal is to meet the customer where they're at and serve them the right hotel for them in a faster time.
Hello everyone and welcome to this new episode of the Travel Outliers. Today here we have Goedele, and she's, I would say, not an outlier of travel because she's been in travel for a long time, but she's building something new, a company that may be an outlier compared to what we see today, and perhaps maybe she will also change things. I'm really excited to announce you, Goedele. I'm really happy to have you here. And first of all, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you? And thanks for the kind words.
I'm great. We know each other since some time now. It's been, I would say, probably a few months or almost a year or something like this, right?
Yeah.
We got to know each other from the network of Amadeus, which is this big travel tech giant connecting everyone in the world.
Correct.
And in the beginning, we were just chatting. You were telling me about your startups, and things are becoming reality now. So I'm super excited to see the progress of Pink Notebook. But before Pink Notebook, I want to know who is Goedele at heart, and especially I want to know your travel moments that you believe define you as a person and maybe as a traveler as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say I'm a third culture kid at heart. I think that's also really defined my travel moments and the way I look at problems and the way that, I've built Pink Notebook. So I am originally Dutch, but grew up in Seattle and in London, and then studied in the UK, studied in the US. So I've spent an obscene amount of time on planes, hopping across the ocean, and have been very lucky also in moving so much to see so many different parts of the world, and to have friends, having gone to international schools like all over the world. It's very rare for me to go visit a destination and not have like a friend or a friend of a friend that lives there. And so I think I very quickly ended up with like a long list of places I wanted to go to and a long list of things I wanted to see, or hotels that had been recommended, or like restaurants that were like a must visit. And they all lived kind of disjointedly in different notes apps, or they were screenshotted, or they were like saved on Instagram. And I think that experience was very much a starting point for Pink Notebook, for thinking like, how can we bring all of this together and create a hub which is like partially social, partially inspirational, and then also totally bookable. So it was very much my, international background that led to Pink Notebook.
Amazing. This may sound funny, but probably here, every person I'm knowing and which I'm doing the podcast with, it has let's say international story behind. I don't know, born in one place, like growing up in another place and moving to another one for the university and so on. All people that as being here in the Travel Outliers, you are the number fifth, and all of them have like these multicultural stories behind, and it's like I have no choice but being in travel. I mean, it's everything that I'm somehow interested in, right?
Yeah.
So that's very, very interesting. So talking about Pink Notebook, we both know that the travel industry is let's say somehow a very old industry, because being a deep desire that is bringing people to travel, it's an old industry that is being very successful across decades, right? And when you are very successful, most of the time you don't feel innovation till it arrives a point in which things are feeling kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And I believe that Pink Notebook definitely has the power and the characteristic to shift some old paradigms. So I want to know from you, for our audience here, so what is Pink Notebook, and what is this paradigm that you are fighting and you believe you're going to change?
Absolutely. So Pink Notebook is what I like to call a next generation OTA. So if I take like 5 or maybe even 10 steps back, The online travel agent, historically, when you wanted to book travel, you would go to a travel agent way back when, and it was like a physical brick and mortar store, and they would say like, we have a great deal going to Greece, or we have a great deal going to Egypt, and you would tell them roughly when you wanted to travel, and they would come with a destination, and you could pick 2 or 3, and that was it, you would book it. And then, you started to get some initial like inspiration sources, think like Lonely Planet, still ragingly popular actually, but like that allowed travelers to start to engage with destinations before they either booked their trip or after they'd booked it and when they wanted to go. And then you had the online travel agent, and the online travel agent, I think, really came in at a point where people knew where they wanted to go and when. It was just replacing brick and mortar stores. So it was, I want to go to Greece and I want to go for spring break. And so it made sense that the first question they asked was, where do you want to go and when do you want to go? And if you now fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, they haven't changed at all. And that's kind of your point about stagnation. The first question that an online travel agent asks you is where and when. But the point that the customers are at when they enter this kind of universe is very different nowadays. So a statistic is that 60% of people don't know where they want to go or when, and 70% of people are considering different destinations. And so this entry into the online travel agent doesn't make sense anymore because that's not where the users are at. And so what it's done is it's forced users into a very fragmented user journey. And we see that almost 70% of people are going to visual inspiration sources. So Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, those are the ones that are like really catchy and inspiring. And we all know it, there's beautiful content out there. There's like great videos, great photos, but oftentimes it's reposted or it's not tagged or it's just a snippet. And so the information that you're looking for, like visually it's there, but the information isn't there. And so it doesn't lead into any kind of conversion funnel. And that's frustrating if you're a traveler, because then you end up with screenshots or saved posts or group chats, but nothing converts, nothing helps you actually figure.
Asking to the creator below the video in a comment, where is this place?
Yeah, what hotel is this? And then it has like 65 likes and still they haven't commented where it is, or 6,500 likes sometimes. So it's a really like fragmented and frustrating experience for users. And then we also see, and this is kind of reflected in social media, that almost 50% of users, 47%, ask their friends and family for recommendations when they're traveling, because social media and social proof are 2 different things. Like you can listen to a content creator when it comes to like, wow, this is a beautiful hotel, but if like you and I know each other now. So if I go to Milan and I ask you like, what's the best restaurant in Milan? I know that I can trust your opinion on it. And I know that if you tell me this hotel is better than that hotel, that I can trust you on it. And so that's the social proof element. So that's a long way of saying that what we're doing in Pink Notebook is just rebuilding the online travel agent with very rich imagery. So think like Pinterest meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the online travel agent, the historic one. So very rich imagery that much more closely reflects the kind of inspiration that you're used to on the internet. So it really, instead of like TripAdvisor where you see a photo of someone's like half-eaten pasta, which is not very inspiring, we've really done the work to curate a collection of properties that we vet and vouch for and present them to you in a way where it's actually enticing to want to book them. Because if we're asking you to spend, even just, air quotes, 200 euros on a night per hotel, it needs to be worth it, right? Like the experience needs to be worth it and the booking experience should be worth it. And we couple that with social features so that you can actually go to your friends within the OTA infrastructure and ask for advice and ask for, like which 2 of these hotels do you like better, or you can create collections together, share ideas, etc. And then all of that is built on a machine learning algorithm that really allows us to better serve you with the right hotels. So if you're looking at very classical hotels and we know that you want to come to New York, we're not going to serve you the W, which is super modern, because we've learned from your behavior and we know like this is the kind of hotel that Smeraldo likes. So it's at its simplest form, it's a curated OTA with beautiful imagery. And if we get deeper, it's got social tools, and deeper than that, we have a machine learning algorithm. And ultimately the goal is to meet the customer where they're at and serve them the right hotel for them in a faster time, and just, make the kind of travel search and booking experience way more fun.
It's like somehow for people that it's let's say in an age or let's say they have the economical capacity to pick different stuff and they're not just looking for the cheapest option, because that's obviously very limiting. You just like
Correct.
filter for the cheapest one and you got what you need, right? But in the moment in which you have like a range of let's say options between, I don't know, 250 and 400 euros a night, there's a lot of options there.
Yeah.
A lot of different locations. So each location is giving pros and cons. It's really hard to choose, actually. And this is the paradox. When I'm traveling for business, it's really easy for me. I get the best option next to the venue of the event, or if the venue of the event is the hotel itself, I sleep in the same hotel. It's super easy. I don't need to think, right? One is about doing nice trips. Now I got married, so I'm having my trips with my wife. And I mean, thanks God, she's in the industry, so she's able to, do things a bit faster. But I'm like, when I see her, doing her research, comparing stuff, she's using so many tools and so many stuff at the same time. I'm like, oh my God, how many opportunities are losing people that are not able to do this stuff by themselves, right? So I definitely believe that there is a space for what you're building, and probably is going to be the way that things are done, in the future. Perhaps all OTAs will go in that direction, but I hope that you're going to be much faster, so you're going to get in the market. I wanted to ask you another thing as a founder. Every founder has a sort of aha moment. Is this like, instant in which you're like, oh, this is the problem, and then it comes in your head, the potential solution, and you're like, go to your friends and you're like, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, wow, that's actually cool, right? When was this moment for you?
I think it's a combination of moments that kind of came together in a kind of serendipitous way. I had been playing around with variations of this idea for a while, although not the OTA part, because I think in travel, it's more difficult to build an OTA. I think there's quite a few competitors out there that have like ways to curate hotels that you like, or build lists and share lists. There's different widgets. I think Pink Notebook, insofar as I know, is one of the only ones that's been able to combine all of that under one roof with its own OTA, so actually owning the booking funnel. That's interesting for users because it means that we're not redirecting you, so you're not jumping through tabs, which is part of the issue. And it's interesting for us because it means that we can play with margins, so we can offer better prices to users. And it's also just, like we were saying before the call, unit economics. It's good for a startup to own that funnel. So I had been playing around with these kind of various features and widgets for a while. It was only when I met Michiel, who I now work with, who has been in travel for more than 30 years, that he said, yeah, but I can build the OTA for you. I know everybody that can help you do this. I know the tech stacks. I can do this. That I thought, okay, well now it might actually have merit, because now we can actually make money. Because if not, if you don't have the OTA, you're looking at needing to have like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users in order to make your model worth it. And you're usually looking at like an advertising model or a redirect model, which really is just feeding into kind of the same issue that travel has, which is a lot of different affiliate platforms that are kind of bouncing users between each other. And it's frustrating. It's part of the problem. So once I met Michiel, I thought, okay, well, this actually has merit. I had just moved to New York, where I currently live. I just graduated from Columbia, and I graduated into a pretty bad hiring market. And so the serendipitous part was, well, I've come to New York. I really want to be in the startup space. I now seem to have all the component parts to make this happen. I have the idea. My friends seem to love it. Michiel backs it. Let's do it. And that's how it all came together.
Very interesting. You said a lot of things that somehow I've been living also personally. As you know, Blinkoo at the beginning was fully B2C, and we were trying to understand how to direct traffic in different platforms and so on. We also tried to redirect traffic to Booking, to Skyscanner, and so on. And we got quite a lot of traffic, but still the revenues that we got, they were so small because most of the time the cookie wasn't recognized, obviously.
Sometimes you need to have the tab open even for it to count.
Exactly. So like probably 90% of the bookings were not considered, and the one considered, the commissions were very low compared to actually what users were paying and what is the commission that the platform takes. So it's very true that building OTA today, it's really, really complex. So I just had a podcast with Travis Pittman, which is the CEO and founder of Radar. And he told me that nowadays to build a new OTA from scratch in terms of like technologies, people, investments up front, and especially marketing, considering also the low margins, because that's the other problem. In your case, you perhaps can work on these margins because you guys are going as much direct as possible. At the end, you still have maybe some intermediaries, but still it's like very technical ones. It's not other LTAs or tour
Correct.
operators and stuff like that. So it means that you really have base pricing basically. That will help you because it seems that the money today to get started with a new OTA is around 100 millions of investments to see profitability. That's crazy. Like 100 millions. Come on, 5 years ago it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
Imagine that Travis here, I collected from official record, I didn't ask this to him, but I think about 65 million, but he started about 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the numbers, and it's not just a game of doing things properly, creating something that is sticky with the users and so on. It's about fighting for the users. It's a lot of money to spend there as well. I know that Pink Notebook is not yet at the moment in which you need to heavily scale your user base because you're still in the launch phase and so on. But yeah, it will arrive this moment, and your fundraising skills will be very useful in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just starting to really push customer acquisition. So we launched our beta I want to say 3 weeks ago. Got some early user feedback off that. Well, initially we launched at the end of the summer, had user feedback. There was some low-hanging fruit, kind of knocked that off immediately. That's ready to go, and we're getting some more user feedback. And then hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll push out of beta. And then it's time to start really working on customer acquisition.
Yeah, I know that's like a scary moment in one sense, because then of course the unit economics are mattering, but you have also to consider that a proper funnel on a new OTA is going to take years to be built. So you're going to spend more than you earn for a long time, and that's okay. It's somehow annoying, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm starting to get used to that idea. Every time I'm like, no, I've got this. And then I think, gee, if the 5,000 people before you needed to spend more than they earned for like 3-4 years, you will probably also have to do that.
Exactly. So what would you make happy in 12 months from now to have happened to Pink Notebook? Imagine your roadmap, your goals and stuff like this. We meet each other in 12 months, we do another podcast, and you tell me why you're happy. Why would you be happy in 12 months from now?
So I'm looking at 3 key KPIs. One, the real North Star is bookings, because the whole point of having the OTA is to have bookings. But I think there are some softer KPIs, one being signups or users, and then another being like board save, because a big feature of Pink Notebook is that we allow you to like curate your own collection, because I think in travel particularly, the time between discovery and conversion is a little bit lower than if you're selling, socks or shoes or whatever. So those are the 3 key KPIs that I'm looking at, and the number one that would make me happy is bookings. Outside of that, we've just started working on not particularly a rebrand or a redesign, but we've just started scoping out what the next version of Pink Notebook would look like. And we're really leveraging large language models and natural language search in order to be able to better serve the user. So one of the key feedback points that I got that I thought was super fun was a lot of my friends being like, I want to go on a boys' trip and I want the hotel to have a padel court or a tennis court or whatever it is. And the only way right now to search for that is if you're lucky, the OTA has like a filter button, but it probably doesn't have tennis courts as a filter. Or you ask ChatGPT, in which case it just scrapes the internet and gives you the most generic, review of hotels. Or you Google it, and you have to hope that the hotel website's, written in a way that it's SEO compatible. But there's no real way to like actually find a fun hotel for a boys' trip with a tennis court. And so we're
Actually, it happened to me as well. I was
yeah.
looking for a place with a tennis court and I couldn't find it.
Tennis
For
court comes up
discovering
so
that,
often. Yeah.
exactly, for discovering that actually there were,
Yeah.
but then we book a hotel and then we went to the tennis court.
Yeah.
We just book another tennis court
Yeah.
randomly. So-
Yeah. And it's funny because like tennis court resonates way more than I thought it would. Like I thought it was just a funny example, but everybody I've spoken to recently is like, yes, I'm looking for that. And so we're really, I'm really excited about working on that part of our offering. I think one key thing for me is to keep Pink Notebook very concise so that I have like a clear narrative for both users and investors so that we have a very clear identity and people know what Pink Notebook is, which is why I say like at its core, it's just a curated collection of hotels that we vouch for and then their social tools and etc. But this I'm really excited about because I think it's just something that we haven't seen much of in the travel industry. And if we get it right, it's just a really cool way to help serve travelers. And it's actually new and exciting and interesting. So those are the two things that I'll be talking about next year.
That sounds very great. And I totally understand like having one North Star as a metric. My advice as a founder as well is always be careful of the fact that this metric can be achieved with a lot of effort in the beginning. Sometimes it's gonna pass months before you to understand maybe this like quick tweaks that you needed to put, in your marketing users to understand better what you're doing. And in these moments, it's psychologically hard. It's like you didn't get to that point yet because you're not selling yet actively. But when you will start to sell, you will discover completely new emotions that you didn't know existed. It's very, very interesting. But no worries, no worries. As a fellow founder, I'm here to chat about that. Everybody is crossing from that moment. And generally, with a mix of resilience and somehow mental flexibility, you understand what is it, because paradoxically, what you have in your head, what people perceive, it's always, somehow not the same. And sometimes it's just a matter of few words in your communication. Sometimes it's a matter of how you position yourself or what kind of audience you go in and so on. So you need to, test and learn a lot to then find the proper funnel. Sometimes we think that building a revenue model for a startup is a job, is one thing. You just do it. It's not like this. It takes years. It takes years to build a proper business model that is spending less than is earning, unfortunately. So. And
to your point about international founders, I think there's an adaptability that comes from moving, which might also, I think there's like a self-selection there as well, particularly for travel founders. Like, it takes a certain kind of person to pick everything up and try again in a different country. And you can also apply that to being a founder and saying, okay, scrap this, try that. And a real, like you said, grit and adaptability.
So I'm going to tell you something funny. Moving a lot and changing house many times. My first investor, not in Blinkoo, I'm talking about my previous startup, basically, he had no time. He asked me just one question. I was like 23 at that time, 22, 23. And he asked me, how many times you moved home? Mm-hmm. I was like, but I'm here to pitch my startup. No, just reply me to this question. And I told the number. It was a lot of homes because my dad had a job that he had to move a lot. So I was moving all the time, basically. And then also when I was at university, I changed it, a few times and so on. So it was a lot of homes already. And he was like, okay, yes, I will invest in you. He went away and then we had a proper meeting, but...
It's good signal.
And I asked him, why did you ask me this question? And he told me that if you want to be a good founder, you need to be adaptable. And I found a huge correlation between people changing a lot of houses and being adaptable, especially in different cities or even countries. Yeah, no, definitely. I can remember like my very first day of school in the US, I didn't speak any English. My dad also had a job where we had to move often. Wait. You had a moment in which you didn't speak any English?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was like 4. So my first my first language officially is Dutch, although English is by far my stronger language now. But I was like 4 or almost 5 and moved for my dad's job, moved under pretty short notice. moved in the middle of the school year. My first school day was somewhere in April. And I vividly remember my dad dropping me off at school and my teacher picking me up, and I couldn't understand anything. And my dad was standing by the door, by the classroom door, and he just like sticks his thumbs up and walks out. And I was like, help. Oh man, yeah. That teaches you something though.
I had a similar experience because, not sure if I told you, but I'm not originally from Italy. I was born in Albania and I moved to Italy when I was 6.
Okay. No, I didn't
But
know that.
the situation was slightly different because I went to the class and because of the television, I was already speaking Italian. And the funny thing, I didn't know that. I could speak Italian, but I didn't know that because when when you're watching cartoons the whole time in Italian, when you try to speak Italian, you can actually do it. So I went to the class and, I remember the teacher asking me, do you speak Italian in Italian? I say no. but then after 5 minutes, I was already chatting.
You're like, oh, I do actually. That's good to know.
Everybody's surprised. But like, you're a foreigner. Why do you speak Italian? I was like, I don't know. It was super fun.
Oh, that's so cute.
So coming back to us, I will ask you a question related to being a founder, and then I have another question for you, which is related to Blinkoo and Pink Notebook.
Yeah.
Being a founder, you're already in the top 10% of founders because most of founders are not able to raise any capital. You were able to raise the first million, if I remember correctly. And obviously, that puts you already in a position of being like, somebody that got a good pre-seed in US or almost a seed in Europe, probably. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the most important skill to raise capital when you're building a product that will need a lot of millions? Therefore, you cannot, build something, show that it works, and then eventually, be able to rise on metrics. Okay. I have a similar experience. I raised $1 million with basically the first pitch. I wasn't a first-time founder, which it helps. But in your case, you are basically a first-time founder as well. So what do you think is your secret? And what is the suggestions and the feedbacks that you could give to founders that today are maybe trying to raise capital in similar situations, being first-time founders with a product that is really cool, but requires a lot of money even just to start?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think I definitely have or had some, a little angel on my shoulder because I'm a first-time founder, a non-technical founder, and a solo founder. And normally when you go fundraise with that, VCs, they don't even let you in the front door. They're like, I don't know about this one. It's like the trifecta of just risk. I think if I've done one thing really well, it's hire well. And so I have an incredible team, which I think de-risked the investment enough that it became interesting. I think the people around me, particularly working with someone like Michiel, who has so much experience in travel, was very appealing for investors. Mm-hmm. When I look at the number one skill, I do think, I accept your point that there are a lot of tweaks you can do to kind of inflate these key KPIs that you're looking at. But I do think being very clear on your KPIs and what you're going to deliver with this initial capital is important, particularly when you know that you have to raise again because you know that it's a product or an industry that requires more capital. To really break it down into bite-sized chunks, not because I don't believe in the intelligence of my investors and I think I have to dumb it down, not at all, but because you have to make it really clear what the return of investment is. Okay, if you give me this, I will give you that. And then we'll be at a point where I can give you the next, return if you invest again. And so it's just being really, really clear on what you think you can do with that initial investment and showing returns for that investment. So again, for me, coming back to bookings, I was super set on the fact that because I have the booking infrastructure, I can promise them even 5 or 10 or 15 bookings. Might be, it's a tiny, tiny number, and those are not the numbers I promised them. But to say I can prove to you with this money that we're onto something and that our thesis works.
That sounds great. It's exactly the type of advice that I give to founders. It's depending on, of course, how much money you need to rise to be profitable one day, but generally is it's never, you never rise at the first spot the money that you will need. Therefore, you're rising for a milestone. So you need to be very specific on what is this milestone and to make sure that is realistic enough, but also ambitious enough. And then you say another thing, the team. If you go there and you're by yourself and nobody believed in your idea without even, having a salary yet, that's also big. It's like when you go to people and you're like, I have this idea, would you start to work on this with me? And then we get investors together and we have a salary and we have everything. Most of the people will say no, especially the ones that are cool and busy. But if you're able to get the cool and busy people with experience in the industry, it means that you get something. You're able to build stuff, right? And I think, being a founder means being extremely creative in being able to do stuff in the beginning without capital, proving that you're able to do things because that's the whole point, and therefore you get the capital because you're able to do things, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. Amazing. I think this is a very, very good advice, and I give this advice to founders saying to me that no, the only thing that I need is just capital because I have everything already. Well, I mean, trust me, the capital is coming if you have everything already, right? It's very easy.
If you
just use your network. Go to your network, speak with like 100 people, ask them intros, and you will see if you are ready, you're gonna get the money, 100%.
Yeah, if you can do a lot with a little, guaranteed they will give you a lot after that. Then the floodgates of money open.
Yes,
at least
sure.
I hope. I'll speak to you next year when I'm trying to fundraise again.
Yeah, I mean, it gets harder, but it happens. At Blinkoo, we are at the million number 8 right now, so it's been some time already, and it's different from the initial plans. We were expecting to rise much more, but we didn't hit all the milestones. Obviously, the market is not, super open to give more if the traction is not the same. We were able then to, let's say, build good expectations after switching the model to B2B. As you know, now we're providing videos at scale to companies that want to become more visual. And it's not many startups, actually. At the moment, it's only one startup that we're working with. It's generally more like a enterprise level service. But we know each other since a long time now, so we're trying to make sure that for you is obviously sustainable the way that you adopt videos by the time. And I wanted to ask you here, it's not live, but kind of in live, what is your experience so far, and how do you see authentic content, videos, but maybe in the future also photos, because we see the traction on that is becoming higher and higher. So how do you see the concept of user-generated content in your long-term strategy, and what's your experience with us at Blinkoo?
Well, I think it's critical in travel because the kind of content that we've gotten used to in the past, I mean, how many years has Instagram been around? I think officially like 20. I think I've been on it for like 14, 15 years.
It's about 15, I think, actually.
Okay,
You're on Instagram since day one, probably.
Yeah. I'm dating myself. I think I got Instagram when I was like 15, and I'm 28 now, so that would track, actually. The kind of content that has been shaped by Instagram, I think, is so defining for like what our generation is used to. And you see it in like every industry, like the way fashion photography is shot has changed, and the way magazines engaged with users has changed. And every brand, almost every brand, Western brand is on Instagram nowadays, whether it be a hardware store or a restaurant or airlines. Like they're all curating their image through this very particular type of visuals, which is, the Instagram, TikTok visual, Pinterest as well, but let's go with Instagram and TikTok. And the difficult thing for travel is if you are a makeup brand, you can quite easily, take the hit of sending out 100 of your face creams or your eyeshadows to influencers and asking them to post about it. And really you're just losing the cost of the good plus the shipping. In travel, you can't do that. Or you can, but it's very expensive, because if I have to send an influencer into Bora Bora to take a beautiful video of a hotel, I need to raise a whole lot of money, and I would much rather send myself into Bora Bora than to take a video of a hotel. Not that I could justify that, but anyway, you get my point. And so then you have to look at existing networks of content creators or influencers and say like, okay, well, who already has this content? And to build that out yourself is such an immense task, and you need to have exactly the right contacts, because a lot of this stuff is pretty ring fenced, right? They have managers or they want certain commissions, and that makes sense because it's their livelihood. And so for Blinkoo to come in and to manage all of that, I think for a company like ours that relies so heavily on the visuals is very, very important. Because a big part of our differentiator is, we don't make you scroll through 100 pages of hotels. We promise that the hotels are pretty, and here's the proof. And here's the proof, a lot of that comes from Blinkoo content.
If you don't mind, I will use this as a speech because it was perfect. I think it
Thank
was
you.
much better than mine, actually.
No, go for
I
it.
love that. But yeah, it's true. It's very hard to get the rights of the content unless you invested millions in positioning yourself in a specific way.
Yeah.
And even making them understand that you're not selling your content physically,
Yeah.
you're just giving the rights of usage and
Yeah.
you're getting paid every time that it's used and so on,
Yeah.
with specific licensing based on where it's used and what brand and so on. It took a long time, and now it's easy for us because we know exactly what to say. We have a lot of processes to, as you can see as well, when we don't have content in a specific area, it takes 3 days, to get any kind of content that is already out there, because creators are happy to have one other source of monetization. Because the problem is this is already old content. Basically, it's content that is being already shoot, and they are using it to just create audience on their page, basically, and it's there sleeping, making any money, basically, right? So for them, keeping that there is very, very, let's say, it's a big waste somehow. So it makes sense, obviously, to monetize it less, but in a different way. There is only one problem. When you go as a brand, they will always ask you much more money.
Yeah.
They will say, who is Big Notebook? Oh, they're just trying to 1 million. Let me ask them like 10K for the rights of my content, right? So that's the paradox. In the case of Blinkoo, we make them very clear. We're a platform of distribution. And of course, we know the market. We know how much brands will pay for that. So instead of having any sales, you get some sales. Obviously, more we scale, more they earn. And it's automatic. The same piece of content can earn across time, and brands can edit it and change it a lot. And maybe 30 seconds of videos can become a lot of different kind of videos as well, right? So that's a little bit the secret behind that. And you are probably one of the only ones that understand it deeply, because normally it takes really long time to make them understand the difference with stock content, the difference with influencer marketing. It's like, oh, you're sending creators? No, we're not sending creators. Otherwise, I cannot.
Can't afford
it's a different
that.
price. It's a different thing. I really appreciate your words, Goedele. It's great to hear that. We are really happy to have you as a partner, customer, and we want to see you grow, because obviously somehow for us it's the proof that even like smaller companies that are just getting started can benefit from that. Obviously it's about, once you have the content, then you need to do a lot of stuff to make sure that this content can, get the most in the market. And it's not easy because, it's not a full service that is like from A to Z, that is all you need. Then you need to take the content, edit the content, and create an interesting storytelling. And also this part is complicated. It's not easy to find the right partner, like sometimes agency or creator working behind the scenes to make things happen. I think it's probably for startuppers even, because for corporates it's different. When a corporate is saying to me, I don't have the editors, I just introduce one of my creators, which I know is good, and their pricing is okay. And the corporate has money, and they're like, okay, sure. Okay. Yeah. It's like 300 euros a video. Amazing.
It's a rounding error. They don't even care. Yeah.
For startups, it's harder because you need to work with a different pricing. You have no choice. So you cannot like pay the premium price of corporates. And it's really hard to find, especially when you're building something that is not fully formed. That is something like still in your head, it's clear, but when you speak with people, you realize that there is a lot of dark zones that need to be clarified. It's really hard to find people that can work with you and do the job as you expect. It's super hard.
I think that, but also I think a startup learning, or like something that's shared with me often, is like ship a bad product or ship quickly, because there's learnings that you can gain from that. I do think that being in consumer, and particularly having built a product that is so defined by its quality and by signaling like a promise to its customers, like the hotels we sell are good and our differentiator is in a lot of ways the look and feel of the platform, that you can't always ship a bad product quickly. Like, yes, within reason, you have to ship quickly and you can't wait for perfection. But if you're building B2B SaaS, doesn't matter what your desktop or like your interface looks like, in the same way as it does when you're shipping a consumer product.
The bar is different. The bar is very high in consumer products. You can definitely ship something that is not perfectly working in the moment you need to validate partially the funnel, but then having the full trust of a user to choose you to spend thousands of euros in their holidays. I mean, that's the bar is very high, and we saw that at Blinkoo as well. When we were fully B2C, we were able to get like pretty much traction in let's say in the marketing phase, in the acquisition phase. When it was about booking, we were using like forms and stuff like that. We didn't have like full booking engine, and we were having like the management of the lead with our travel agency as well. So we got much more bookings or requests of bookings than the one that we could manage. And when was the moment to decide, are we going to become an OTA or we will, do video marketing, because we're very good at that. Okay. When we saw what was the cost to build that without experience, we needed to hire the people that has a lot of experience, and they were expensive, obviously expensive, right? I didn't have them in my network as you had, so it was like super, super useful to find the right people very quickly and tell them, let's start working together on this if you're interested. And then once we build it, obviously there is a big reward. So when we saw the cost of that, we were like, okay, no, we cannot do that. We already spent like 5 million in that moment. For being fully B2C, we couldn't spend other like 5 million trying to build something that eventually will build a business model. So we're like, just let's stick with being a great marketing partner with videos, because it's gonna be faster. And here we are, and we're not competitors. That's amazing. So we can work together now.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a really cool journey you guys have been on, and it gives me a lot of learnings. That was the luckiest thing when I first spoke to you. I had somebody who understood exactly what I was going through.
The funny thing is that when we decided to do the switch, we did it mostly because we had much more videos than we needed. So we became so good at collecting videos on the market that we had so many videos. We were like, wow, we can build 10,000 trips with that. And it was like, do we need 10,000 trips? Probably not, right? So we realized that we were very good at sourcing videos, and we were like, probably, OTAs and travel agencies need to use videos for communicating, and everything started because then we met Amadeus, and they had like a project in the background doing the same, and just after that we met each other because the same person, Julian Trubridge, that was seeing both of us, decided to connect us. So it's very interesting journey. So Goedele, thank you very much for your time. It was really a big pleasure to have you here. Thanks a lot for the insights on the startup side. That's very, very useful for a lot of people that is trying to follow similar path. And hopefully some other people in the travel industry will listen to you, because maybe they are struggling to understand what to do more in an innovative way somehow, in terms of like communicating with the audience, how to grow maybe their customer base, because they have the same number of thousands of users across decades, and that's crazy. I've met travel agencies in Italy with 5,000 customers for the last 10 years, and they have the same amount of customers. They're unable to grow. And they want to grow, some of them. I mean, not all of them. So some of them don't want to grow because they don't want to work more, and I get that, but you just hire people anyway, not my business. But the ones that want to grow and they are trying different things, perhaps they should listen to the startups that are, probably seeing the market in a different way. And with that, we're going to close it here, unless you have something to share to the market. If you want maybe people to reach out to you for specific partnerships or investors or whatever.
I mean, anyone who wants to know more about Pink Notebook can reach out to me, and we're pushing out a beta soon, so sign up and have a look. Let me know what you think.
Amazing. What's the best channel to reach out to you? I guess LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, LinkedIn. There's only one person with my name on LinkedIn, I think, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Amazing. So everyone, thank you very much for listening to us and coming till here. It has been a big pleasure. So I'm gonna see you at the next one.
Thank you so much.